At this time, I'm going to call to order the regular scheduled meeting for the Town of Florence Planning and Zoning, scheduled on February 7th at 6 p.m. in Town Hall. Mr. O'Gean, could you take roll, please?
Yes, I will. Chairman Woolley.
Present.
Vice Chair Patrick.
Present.
Commissioner Anderson.
Present.
Commissioner Petty.
Present.
Commissioner Reed.
Would you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
We have a quorum.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next agenda item for this evening will be the discussion, approval, disapproval of the minutes for the special meeting conducted on September 6, 2012. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at these minutes?
Yes.
Is there any questions or concerns in reference to these minutes?
No.
If there's no questions or concerns, I'll take a motion for approval on these minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes as they are.
A second.
I have a motion on the floor this evening to approve the minutes for September 6, 2012 special meeting. The motion was made by Vice Chair Patrick, seconded by Commissioner Reed. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those minutes have been approved. The next agenda item for this evening is going to be a public hearing. This is case number PZC 02-13-ordinance. This is an industrial and other land use text amendment. Presentation, discussion, recommendation of a text amendment application by the Town of Florence, amending the Town of Florence Code of Ordinances. More specifically, an ordinance for the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, amending Title 15, Land Use, Chapter 150 Development Code, Section 150.031, defined words, 150.047, District Use Regulations, Table A, 150.047, District Use Regulations, Tables B, 150.048, Rural Agricultural, RA10, 150.049, Rural Agricultural, RA4, 150.064, Light Industrial, and 150.065, Heavy Industrial, PZC 0213 ordinance.
Thank you. Well done. A lot to get through. We'll try to make this shorter. I apologize. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Commission. Tonight, in front of us, we have the Development Code text amendment. Development codes, we should read them and review them and update them on a regular basis. As some of you can remember, we updated our town code back in 2006. As good as the code is, there are some discrepancies and some redundancies that exist. And this is one of the text amendments of many that are here to address some of these issues that have come up. There's basically 7 major changes that we propose tonight. The first one being to formalize past zoning interpretations and also to discuss and validate recent zone process that was proposed by CCA expansion. Staff is proposing that the correctional facilities and similar use be specifically defined in the development code and listed in a table, in the use table. For those of you who are familiar with our code, we have the written portion on one side and we have the actual table on the other side, and staff has found some issues when you're reviewing that, and also we're reviewing it through cases. So this is just an attempt to make them both read better and work well. The second reason is direction from council. Staff is proposing more clarity regarding the agricultural and farming uses. This has always been kind of a tough area for us at times, just because some of the language is vague. It's not real specific. Sometimes that's can be a blessing in disguise, but sometimes it can make it quite difficult on certain cases. So the changes continue to support general farming and agricultural uses, but place limitations on more industrial and intense types, such as dairies, slaughterhouses, and similar uses that could have a dramatic impact And some of those would be like, for example, noise, odor, et cetera, to the surrounding properties. The third reason is to reduce the potential for conflicting interpretations. Various uses that are already listed in the land use tables were removed from the respective districts and sections. This is a big point for staff because we interpret it one way, developers read it another way. And there's always those issues, and then we end up having, sometimes we run into disagreements. So the fourth reason is church and public schools were removed from the land use tables based on the provisions of state and federal laws. Public schools are not subject to zoning, and churches may locate in any zoning district by right, subject to complying with basic development standards. And as you mentioned at the last meeting, schools, public schools don't usually follow all the rules, partly because it doesn't sometimes apply to them. But we have a great relationship here in Florence with the public schools, and they typically they listen to our advice. The fifth reason were some uses were identified in the code but not defined, and their definitions could be open to interpretation. And that's happened in some examples with the correctional facilities and other uses that aren't specifically defined in our code. Number 6, staff is also proposing the removal of current definitions for restaurants so that restaurants simply fall into 2 categories: sit down or drive-through. The last reason, other minor changes reflect suggestions made over time by mayor, town council, planning and zoning commission, historic district advisory commission, and economic development coordinator. We've held, like I said before, several work sessions, not several, we've had some work sessions with different commissions and with town council, and we tried to get their advice and their direction to help us narrow down this issue and make it relevant. So that basically covers most of the information about this text amendment. Now, we did have a town council work session on this issue back in July 23rd, and we have tonight's meeting, and we have 2 more meetings that are scheduled to follow, depending on what the recommendation is. Staff recommends that P&Z favor a favorable recommendation to town council on this case. I'm here to answer any questions along with staff. Any questions you have for me?
Actually, it's a public hearing, so I'd like to go ahead and do that first, and then we'll open it back up for questions. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. Public hearing is now open. In the absence of the public, I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed and open it to the commissioners for questions.
Is CCA, are they going to expand? I mean, even though immigration reform's on its way?
Repeat that, I wasn't able to hear it all.
I'm sorry?
I couldn't hear your question.
Oh, I just said, are they going ahead with their expansion even though immigration reform's on the way? I mean, you can't hold, that means that they won't be holding immigrants or illegals for 1, 2, and 10 years like they do now. I mean, they'll have due process and well, I guess I'm worried about the money for the town coffers, for the general fund.
We haven't received any expansion plans or any type of development, even any type of talks regarding that issue right now.
Okay.
So that's all I know as of right now. I'm sure as soon as it comes up and once it goes public, we'll inform commission.
They're making record profits, but both GEO and CCA right now. So, okay.
There has been plans in the past with as you all know, with GEO, but those plans were halted. So no new plans that we're aware of.
Okay.
I have a simple one. What is in the table, what does G stand for?
What page are you on?
Page 3.
That is actually a C with a slash through it.
Yeah, that means it's a correction. It's been scratched out.
Gotcha, okay.
It does look like a G, though. But it's,
Commissioner,
I have some questions on this district regulations table and the agricultural changes that you made.
what page are you on, sir?
I'm sorry?
What page are you on?
I'm on page 5. I'll start out on page 5. If I understand it, 150.048, the RA10, is primarily gutted, and the only thing it will say is that the uses permitted in the RA10 zoning district per table 150.047A. If I look back at that, that appears to be gutted also.
As it should.
So, and the same applies for the next agricultural section. 150.049.
150.047, it's because the table is interrupted by the next page, but it actually continues on the next page. So 150.047 continues, it's just on page 4.
Yeah,
Well, we left it on there to show you what was being pulled.
but I don't see anything for RA10. On page 3, there's only 2 things, church and feedlots, and they've been,
No, the uses are now going to be in the table. What we used to have, or I should say it's not actually been changed yet, but what exists now is you have under 150.048, rural agricultural RA10, it lists purpose, it lists permitted uses. Those permitted uses didn't always follow what the table said, which would cause misunderstandings and discrepancies. We've taken all of the permitted uses out. If you wish to see what uses are now being used under the rural agricultural RA10, you look at the chart to get an answer if this use is possible with this type of zone. So we quit having two.
I understand that.
Okay.
I understand that, but I don't see any uses for RA10.
That's going to be addressed on another table. We have a table for residential uses, and we have another one for commercial uses, and I believe it just wasn't.
Why don't we have those in our package then?
I'll have to get with Mark and see why it wasn't added, but I know there's 2 separate tables, one that's specific to residential zones and one specific to, but tonight you don't have all of the table. It's in the code right now, but what you received right here, it's not being addressed. So I see your concern.
Yeah,
I don't think it would be a big deal to add those if we needed to.
Okay. If you go back to page 3, right at the end where it says 150.047, that's the residential zoning district use regulations.
Yeah.
These are the 2 changes that are going on in that table. This is table A. So the church and the feedlot is the only thing that's going to be changed out of that table. That's what I understand from Director Eckhoff's direction.
I think what the commissioner's asking is he'd like to see the table for the residential uses as well, all of them.
it's there.
Yeah.
It's actually there. It says under B1, it says, those uses permitted in RA10 zoning district per table 150.47 alpha. That's right here. It's in there.
where? What page you on?
If we're on page 5, under permitted uses, we scratched a bunch of things.
Yeah.
At the very bottom underneath number 7, which would be B1, those uses permitted in RA10 zoning district per table 150.47
Yes.
alpha.
Right,
That's
but I
right
think
here.
what he's asking for,
I understand that.
right,
So my question is, we took out permitted uses, like farms and
Right.
guest house, ranch, all
No,
that. Now,
I understand what he's asking, and to clarify for both the commissioner and for, he's asking to see the tables that pertain for the RA10. We didn't submit them. What you have in front of you is for the commercial uses, and only the portions that were struck out for the residential zone. So I understand what you're asking for, and I'll relay the message to staff
Yeah.
when I see him again.
But, Chairman, do you
So
see
there's
what my
two
question
sets-
is?
There's two different sets of tables in the code as of right now. So you've only seen the main portion of one of them, not both. And we do that on purpose to keep the confusion to a minimum. So if you come to us with a residential zoning question, we refer to the table that speaks about only residential zones, from the RA10 all the way to the PUDs. Come to us with a commercial question, then we go to the commercial table that pertains to only commercial zones. So I do understand what you're asking. Any other questions?
Well, part of my questions were things like the church and cemetery. I read about the church. I understand that reason that's been taken out, but cemeteries, is that in the table? Or, so, those are one of the conditional uses.
Cemeteries is on R10.
Yes.
It is.
I mean, you know, I'm assuming it's in the table, but,
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's in the table.
150.047, this is district regulations in Table A, residential district uses. Under the cemetery, under RA10, RA4, R1R, R118, R16, R2, MFR, MHS, PUD, they're all conditional use permits
Okay.
for cemetery.
Yeah, so we didn't know, when they were taken off of the chart, staff double checked to make sure they weren't completely taken away, because that's part of the issues that we ran into from 2006. But like I said, I think it's a relevant question. I think it would help council to see both charts.
Exactly,
So if
yeah.
the same question comes up, so I appreciate the question. That's a good one.
Any further questions?
no.
Could you, in your packet, in the application packet, not the text, number 7, other minor changes reflecting suggestions made over a period of time.
Where are you, may I ask?
I'm in your actual application package, page 3, number 7.
Okay.
Can we go a little more into detail? I mean, we're approving something that's there's just nothing there. And then you go on to read the next one, it says, the changes will complement recent text amendments. What changes? That's where I'm a little confused on that one.
The changes reflect in the ordinance that you were handed. Everything that's got a strike through is a change. Everything with something that's underlined is new text.
So you're saying number 7 deals with all the scratch outs in this?
Right. So we thought it'd be less confusing to give you the ordinance instead of trying to put pieces of the ordinance in the staff report. So this shows you what's being removed and what's being added.
Okay.
So
I was just trying to connect it because it
Yeah.
was,
No,
the way I
that's
read it
a
was
good
just a little vague.
yeah, we being the planners sometimes get confused all the time. So
I know.
completely understand.
Do I have any further questions on this case?
Yeah, I have one other question on 150.049. It talks about the rural agricultural district is intended to encourage agricultural use of land and a holding zone of land not yet needed for more intensive use. What's intensive use?
Okay, you are on page 7?
8,
8.
first paragraph. What-
Okay.
I mean,
And you're asking, what is a more intensive use? A more intensive use could be interpreted as a slaughterhouse, a pig farm, something that's going to use agricultural land but to do a commercial business. So that's how they would interpret intensive use.
okay, thank you.
Do you have any further questions on this case? If I have no further questions, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve this as presented with the exceptions that we've talked about here tonight, that the complete tables be added before it goes to council.
I'll second it.
For the record, could you clarify your motion one more time, please?
Okay. I make a motion that we approve under the condition that we add the complete tables for 150.47A.
Thank you. I have a motion on the floor this evening made by Commissioner Anderson, seconded by Commissioner Puttrick. This motion is to forward a favorable recommendation on case number PZC 02-13- ordinance with the so forth stipulations set forth tonight. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please forward a favorable recommendation on this case to the Town Council. Next agenda item this evening will be a call to the public for Commission's response. Call the public for public comment on issues within the jurisdiction of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Individual commission members may respond to criticism made, may ask the staff to review a matter raised, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. At this time, I will open the call to the public. In the absence of the public, I will close the call to the public. Next agenda item this evening is called to the commission. Commissioner Reed?
Nothing.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes, one question. There's been a lot of stuff in the news lately about the sign at the bank. You know, when that was brought to us back in November, you know, it wasn't anything for us to vote on, but just a presentation was made about that. I don't recall anything being brought up about that, about a sign being put up there that was not within the ordinance.
We can give you a full report at the next meeting. We're not supposed to respond.
Correct.
Okay.
I apologize.
Commissioner Petty?
One thing, if there's a meeting on March 7th, I will not be present.
Could you send staff an email, please? Thank you.
Commissioner Puttrick?
I have nothing. No.
And for the record, too, I already told you, but I'll follow it up with an email. On March 21st, I will not be available for a meeting either.
Thank
I'll
you.
forward that with an email.
Thank you.
Okay, with no more comments from the commission, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Oh, excuse me.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry.
Before we end this meeting, I wanted to introduce a new member with us. He's our senior planner. What is your name? No, I'm kidding. His name is Heath Reed. We're lucky to have him. He's from Colorado. Brings a lot of knowledge with him. That's all.
All right.
All right, thanks.
Do I have a motion for adjournment?
I make a motion that we adjourn at 6:23.
I second it.
I have a motion on the floor to adjourn the meeting this evening. Motion made by Commissioner Petty, seconded by Commissioner Puttrick. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This meeting is now adjourned.